Another monster. Nice red, really nice red. Love that sound. What's going on, Salt Strong Nation? It's Matt and the Yak, 8 rods in the back. And today I'm back to talk to you about one of my favorite lures for inshore fishing. Now, it's not a common inshore fishing lure, and truthfully, I actually brought this over with me from my bass fishing days, and it is quickly becoming a well-used tactic out here for inshore fishing. So let's talk about the Strike King KVD 2.5 wake bait. Another one. Ooh, goodness. Now, as I said, this is a bass fishing lure. This lure is most commonly used for bass fishing applications. It is a shallow running crankbait style lure. If you can see the bill there on the front, it is almost vertical. And actually what that does is that allows this bait to run almost right at the surface. A wake bait is designed to run at the surface, and a lot of them don't actually. A lot of them run under the surface by a few feet, or some of them run under the surface by a few inches. But this one right here is what I have found to outperform the others, in my opinion. That's for a few specific reasons, and let's go ahead and get into that right now. Now, as I said, I've been testing these out for quite some time. This one is brand new out of the box, and this color right here is just natural shad. Now, as I said, this is a common bass fishing lure. It's like a crankbait style bait. This does run just below the water surface. This particular bait will run between just under the surface and up to about a foot under the surface. Now, you can run it faster to get it a little deeper, but when you do that, you are rapidly speeding up the speed of this lure with that retrieval. Now, there are some other options that may run a little bit further near the top of the surface or a little bit deeper. However, what I have found out from those other models is that they just don't have quite the same action, quite the same rattle, or quite the same hookup ratio. So when it comes to actually catching fish, these Strike King KVD wake baits are the best wake baits for inshore, in my opinion. Now, as I've said, I have been testing out a bunch of different kinds of wake baits. I've tried Uzuri, I've tried Berkeley, Mann's, the Strike King, and even Rapala. I've tried quite the variety of these baits right here. And after trying a bunch and catching fish on them all, I can say they all do work. However, this one has been more consistent for me than any of the others, and that's for a few good reasons. This bait, unlike some of the others, will run at a foot or less under the surface. This is more of a true wake bait. If I'm looking to leave a wake on that water surface, this is the lure I'm looking to use. Now, in comparison to some of the other options, the body profile on this I feel is much better for inshore applications. Some of the other profiles are a little bit smaller, or there's even some that are longer, long and slender, but I just don't feel like those look very natural. And I know that with these inshore species, they have really good eyesight. These trout do, snook and redfish have really great eyesight, and if a lure is often not convincing to them visually, they will not take it. So these not only run at the depth I'm looking for, they have a very realistic presentation style. Now, when these come through the surface, the back end wobbles. It wobbles as you bring it through the water column, just like a crankbait would. However, it does run a little bit shallower, and you can run this as a topwater. Or as the day carries on, you can actually run this a little bit deeper, just up under that surface like a crankbait, and bigger fish will absolutely crush it. Now, as I said, in comparison, a bunch of the other models, they do run at varying depths and varying speeds. But with this model, I've found that it is easier to keep it at 1 foot or less in that water depth. And that's actually more of what I'm looking for when I fish one of these types of lures. They also have a really nice rattle inside of them, so that as they come through the water, they have a really nice low pitch rattle to them. So especially during windy days first thing in the morning, these can be super productive to call in fish from a long ways away. Now, if you do have a windy day, these work amazing because with some wind and some chop on the water, you often have the water surface varying with the swells. Now, if you're using a wake bait, what that can do is often run 6 to 8 inches below the surface, and then as it reaches the bottom of that swell, it'll actually break the surface of the water and create some disturbance around it. That can often really trigger some bites from those larger fish because this looks like an injured bait fish trying to flee from a hungry predator. Now, I have said a lot of really great things about these baits, and I want to be absolutely transparent about them. While I am a very big fan of the action, the look, the style, and the presentation of these baits, I am not at all a fan of these hooks. Now, while the hooks are great size for inshore fishing, they are not built to last for inshore fishing. I have actually had on more than one occasion, had these very hooks straight out of the box bend on me on a really good fish. I've lost some fish because of bent out hooks on these baits, but the hook isn't what catches the fish. The actual bait profile does. So after losing one too many fish on those hooks, what I've actually done is I've begun to modify these wake baits. What I do now is I go ahead and change out all of the split rings and the treble hooks. Now, the reason I changed the split rings is not because they have failed me per se, but the ones that do come with the wake bait straight out of the box are not saltwater grade. They will rust very quickly if they are not sprayed off and dried and wiped off very well. So I would definitely recommend changing out those hooks as soon as you can, and you definitely don't want to lose the fish of a lifetime because you just didn't change hooks. Now, as I said, I'd not only replace the hooks, but also the split rings. I do change out both of that original hardware with Owner brand. I do go with Owner split ring hooks as well as the Owner single inline replacement hooks. And the reason for that is, as I said, I've triggered some very large bites from very large fish with these baits. When I do hook into a fish with these single inlines, I do not have to worry about losing that fish. I know as soon as that hook is set, as long as he does not shake me with head shakes and I can keep my line tight, these hooks are gonna stay pinned up and not bend out. However, that same fish on these hooks could very well bend them out, and not only bend out the hooks, but cause me to lose a fish in a time that I really may not want to. Say I'm in a tournament or a situation where I can't afford to lose a fish. The single inlines are what I always go to. Now, I will say you may have more hookups with smaller fish on those treble hooks, but if you want to make sure you stay pinned up when those big fish hit this bait, I definitely recommend exchanging them to Owners because those are much more durable, they are saltwater worthy, and they are gonna help you land that fish. Now, they're gonna make sure that fish gets to you without bending the hooks, and they're also gonna make sure that you maintain a good pin up to that fish so that he can't shake you. And if you get a bigger fish, those give me a little bit more peace of mind in making sure they will not fail me. Now, another huge advantage to these single inline hooks that these treble hooks do not have is that when you're fishing the warmer months, spring, summer, and even into the fall, there can be a lot of floating grass on the surface. Now, if you're fishing with these treble hooks, I can assure you that you will more often than not hang up on some of that floating grass with these treble hooks. Now, if you're using these single inlines, what you're able to do is cut through that grass and not get any hang-ups and bring it through effectively and trigger those strikes. Now, this color right here is called the Shizzle. It is one of the KVD Strike King weight bait colors, and we do have this in our tackle shop at fishstrong.com. So if you're interested in one of these, you can pick these up. We also carry this natural shad color, which is one of my highest performing baits as well. Not just the wake baits, but we also do have these Owner split rings, and we have the Owner single inline replacement replacements. Now, as I said, after doing a lot of testing with a bunch of different brands of wake baits, I do feel like this is the ultimate for inshore applications. Now, as I said, that's not to say that the others don't work, and some of the others do even have better hooks. However, the size of that bait profile doesn't do as well as the Strike King KVD versions do. That larger profile not only triggers large bites, but it actually is easier for those fish to see, and it kind of mimics the bait fish size that's out here on these flats. Now, there are multiple modifications you can make to these. Some people like to bend the bill down, some people like to bend the bill up, but those are common modifications that a lot of people make to other brands. I have found that I don't have to make any modifications to the way this lure runs other than the hooks, just to ensure that I don't have any uh-ohs or mistakes when I'm trying to land a really big fish. Say it's tournament day or something and I really need that fish. These single end lines I know are not going to let me down. Now, as I said, these are one of my favorite baits for warmer months, and that's for a very good reason. This bait right here, and actually both of these colors, which are now available in the tackle shop at fishstrong.com, have actually landed me winning fish for multiple tournaments that I have fished in. They can be great for covering large areas of water, like when you're trying to cover the flats first thing in the morning. These can be great to determine whether or not a fish is trying to feed on top or just below the surface. Easy way to figure that out is just speed up or slow down your retrieval speed accordingly. That's one of the reasons these baits are so versatile. So if you're interested in picking up either the natural shad or the shizzle, we do have those in our tackle shop at fishstrong.com, and we do also have those owner split rings as well as the owner single replacement hooks. So if you're interested in picking any of that up, you can find it at fishstrong.com. And as always, if you have any questions for me, leave those down in the comment section and I'll be sure to get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching. And if you're new to Salt Strong, just know that we are the #1 online fishing club in America. We actually guarantee to help you find and catch more fish, save money on tackle, make friends while doing it, or it's free. So we hope to see you in the Salt Strong Insider Club soon, and thanks for watching.